Good evening and welcome to the Azeroth review, where we're talking about anything that you wish to bring up Warcraft related. And I need to redesign the other side of this now because I have still been unable to get any of the chat viewers at... be quiet. Any of the chat viewers actually working. It really annoys me, that thing, actually, because when I'm on the watch page, it doesn't let me mute it before it goes live. It's just like, where the mute button? No, you're not touching that. Never mind. So, hi, Breckner. So, unfortunately, I am just going to have to do my best to read out comments and questions as they come up. Because, I mean, as has happened the last couple of weeks, and this is an updated chat viewer, and I've tried, there's two different ones, and both of them do the same thing. And it works for like a while, and then it stops working forever. Did I log into WoW to try the new raid? No, surprisingly not. I haven't logged into WoW for ages, actually. And also, I've obviously been paying a little bit of attention to what's coming up, you know, and yeah, I'll give it a go on the PTR. I don't think it's quite on the PTR yet. I noticed there's some people complain about the Water Strider thing. I don't see that as an issue. I think the way I understand it, now correct me if I've got this wrong. So the way I understand it, the Water Strider won't, it's not like with the Water Strider, you'll have to have the current water walking and you get another bit amount of equipment. It's like you choose. Do you still want it to walk on water like it does now? Or do you want to give it something else that tones that down? I'm okay with that. If I understand that right, which I think that's what was said, I'm actually okay with that. But the thing I am less impressed with is the fact that when we go to Mechagon, I was already... Oh, you can download... Yeah, okay. Well, have I downloaded it already? I assume I have, because it's open at the moment. You know, I've downloaded something anyway. But it doesn't seem to be working at the moment. So Mechagon... Oh, go on then. Let's go through some of these. So, yeah, the PTR should be going up quite... Well, I mean, that's the impression I got quite soon. Preach was massively complaining about how bad the new mount stuff was to him. Is it? What's bad about it? Well, I haven't seen what anyone else has said about it, I have to say, other than on forums, but in terms of commentators. So what's the issue with the new mount stuff? Because I thought it was quite a nice idea, I have to say. If you earned the Water Strider, they remove the trait but post it to you to use it on the mount. Well, there you go. What's wrong with that? Then you get to use it on a non-ugly mount. I mean, let's face it, the Water Strider is not a pretty mount. If you like it, then that's fine. You can use it on that. And earn is a strong word, isn't it? It takes a while to get it, I'll grant you. So new players, you tell them, oh, by the way, to get the Water Strider, you have to do all this. And they go, oh, that sounds easy. And they go off and do it. And then realise how long it's going to take. It's probably only a couple of weeks, but still, every day doing the dailies, it's probably a bit of a bind. Unless, I suppose, if you've got a human character, do it at least on the human character. But I've not, I don't know, I've not really seen any, I've seen people not happy with it, but I haven't seen anyone really say what the issue is. You like how they're adding flying at this time, at the same time. Well, exactly. I mean, I don't know. It may be a coincidence, but I was saying when I was streaming a bit earlier this week, we were talking about it. And, you know, with it coming out at the same time of flying, it's less of an issue anyway. We don't need water walking when we have flying. It's no use at all. So it's not a problem. So people aren't actually going to miss it. So if it is deliberate, and it may or may not be, then yeah, it's a really good time to do it. It's a time where if there are any complaints with it, they're going to be fairly muted and people get time to get used to it. I think it's a good system. I don't see I think it's a great system, in fact. Water walking paladin mount. Yes, please. For the Water Strider, I think they should do what they're doing with the Sky Golem, where they keep their unique ability and don't benefit from the mount equipment. Oh, no. I mean, the Water Strider thing goes back a while because Ian Hazacosta's tried to shoot it in the head in Legion. So in the Legion Alpha, they stopped the Water Strider from working in Legion on Legion water areas, and then everyone went mad. And he went, but it's so annoying. You keep seeing people on the same mount. And you know, I was one of the ones that said at the time, well, the solution to that is not to remove the ability of that mount. It's to make it available on more mounts or have more mounts that have water walking. This is even better. This is a much better way. This is almost like Blizzard of old, where they have a problem, they come up with a solution, and it's almost like, so now you don't need the Water Strider. I mean, I don't know how you're going to earn the water walking thing. I haven't looked into, and if he mentioned it, I don't remember saying how we're actually going to get the abilities in the first place. But whatever it is I don't know, I'm in favour of it. I don't really see it as a downside to have it technically removed from your Water Strider, because people don't use the Water Strider across water because the Water Strider's pretty. They use it because it has that ability. You'll accept all the change with open arms compared to where BFA is currently at its step forward. The UH, what's the UH? What's UH? Something launched at the same time as flying. What? For the rep grind, you can use time walking coins and buy rep tokens from the Pandaria time walking vendor. Well, it means having to go to the Timeless Isle. I wasn't a huge... I mean, it was a nice thing. It was a nice addition to the game. I wasn't a huge fan of it personally. Just fly, who cares about water walking? Well, yeah. But obviously we will have to care about water walking in the future, because at the start of the next expansion, water walking will be... it will be needed again. But we'll have it then. And we'll have it on whatever mount. And also... newer players will have it. Presumably that's another benefit of this, that you can have newer players who have it without having to go back to MOP and do a load of what would be otherwise irrelevant dailies in an old expansion. You don't know, the Water Strider has the best sounds. Little squeaks. Well, I mean, the thing is, you can still do it in the Water Strider though, can't you? You could use it for the Water Strider. So if people still want... It's like... I don't get it. I understand when they change a system, even if I think the system's changing for the better, if you lose something, if you miss out on something, I can understand why some people will think if the benefit's not a benefit to them, they're just losing. But in this case, what are you actually losing? Oh, Undead Horde, okay. Unholy Hobbits, I wouldn't have a problem with Unholy Hobbits. So yeah, people aren't actually losing, are they? Because you get the thing... And then you go, oh, I still want to use it on my Water Strider. Use it in the Water Strider. Also, alts can use water walking when leveling, but can't fly until later. Oh, right. Okay, while leveling. Oh, well, that's okay as well. I don't mind that. No, I've no. And I know that have obviously been expansion in the past where you could get flying at level cap and then your alts could fly as well. But... I mean, that wasn't the case in Legion. I'm okay with that. I'm fine with it. Did they announce that rep requirements for Alliance races are going away? Or was that just a dream you had? I think that means that's just a dream you had. You agree it's not a major issue to have the water walking equipment in place of the Water Strider, apart from water walking requiring level 100 now. Yes, but before level 100, you can fly. I mean, okay, you've got to get to level 58 before you can fly, granted. But, I mean, how much water walking do you really need to do up to level 58, if we're completely honest? How much walking of any kind do a lot of people do up to level 58? I know they nerfed the dungeon experience a bit, but I'm pretty sure that's still where most of the people do their leveling up to 58 at least. So... ESO PTR is up to... Yeah, I saw that. I actually went on that yesterday to try and use the Necromancer. And then it said, chapter needed. Now, I don't know whether that means I have to play through the chapter on the PTR to get access to the Necromancer. Do you have to do a quest line to actually get access to it? That would be a bit crap. Or does it mean because I haven't bought the pre-order yet, my account is not listed as having it, and although I can play that chapter, it won't let me use a Necromancer? I don't know. Because all I wanted to do was have a look at the Necromancer. It's a weird NDA. They have weird NDAs on ESO. because they don't have NDAs at all at this point in WoW. You just report on anything. They're quite happy about that. ESO, they're a bit cagey about it. But the NDA only prevents you reporting on the main quest line. You can report on anything else and show anything else, just not the main quest line, which is it's not as oppressive as it used to be. Anyway, flying is scary. You like to fat finger and stow your mount while flying. Well, you literally had to stow your mount in vanilla. It was a thing. It's an object. Unless, of course, you were a paladin, in which case you could save a bag space, which is... My bag spaces have always been at a premium, so that was handy. I mean, okay, you're saying it's 100 toon and it unlocks for the account. Wasn't the impression you got from the Taliesin Inevitable video? I mean, I don't know. I mean, we'll find out. And of course, it could all change. I mean, it's only just going up on the PTR this week, isn't it? I mean, based on... Sometimes they change things based on feedback. What I find is, it's not that they never listen to feedback. It's just they never listen to feedback if it's something that is part of their grand design or their philosophy or something. Whereas if it's something that, you know, if this is essentially something they're just tossing in to see if people like it, then they're usually fairly open. You know, the fact that they've responded to something on a forum, which is bloody unusual these days, I suppose is testament to the fact that they actually are really, even though it was very defensive about it, I would still take that as being engaging. That was okay. The only thing you want to know about the Necromancer is how does it do its resources management? The same way as everyone else, I would have thought. Hang on. You love how DKs do theirs, but hate how Sorks and Templars do it. They all do it in the same way. Your resource management is based on like using your weapon or getting the right armor, you know, getting the right traits with your champion points, that sort of thing. Set bonuses. You remember flying in TBC for the first time, going as high as you can and dropping on your druid? Yeah. Well, the druid, yes, because the druid didn't have to cast, did it? Just instant cast, so you could play chicken with a druid doing it. I mean, I remember getting flying for the first time. I also remember getting fast flying for the first time when I had to pay me 5,000 gold, which was a lot of gold then for me anyway. Because I remember we'd already finished the first tier, and I used it to fly to Tempest Keep. Whereas before, I used to have to get taxis up until to the taxi just under Tempest Keep, and then use my slow arse mount to fly up to Tempest Keep. We were on Kelfas, in fact. It wasn't until we were on Kelfas before I actually got my fast one. Hi, Amelie. So, yeah, it wasn't that... I mean, it wasn't exactly exhilarating, I have to say. But what I did notice from the flying when I got it in TBC, because if you look at the map of Outland, it sort of looks like Netherstorm is detached from the rest. And so it is, sort of. But there's a bridge connecting the northeast of Blade's Edge Mountains to Netherstorm, and that's how you get there by land. But I didn't know that, because I didn't like Blade's Edge Mountains. I actually did more questing there than I would have done these days if I didn't like it that much. But I didn't get that far north because I really hated the zone. And I really hated the corpse runs. It was unreasonable. The corpse runs were ridiculous in Blade's Edge Mountains if you died in the wrong place. So I buggered off somewhere else. So I ended up... So the irony was that what you were supposed to do is do your last few levels in Netherstorm. And then when you got flying, then quest in Shadowmoon Valley. Because there was a hell of a lot of tough stuff to do in Shadowmoon Valley. Like, I'd be fighting up mountains and stuff like that and climbing my way up there. And stuff was respawning so quickly and it was very, very tough as well. Of course, I realised later you were supposed to fly to the bit you needed and only deal with those mobs. But I was fighting my way through everything. And so when I got flying, I was flying around. And then I discovered... And I went to Netherstorm because I thought, oh, I can go to Netherstorm now. And then as I was flying there, it didn't take me long to come across the bridge. And I went, oh... Right, okay, I could have been here all along. So there we go. DK gets stamina and magic back when they ultimate. Templars stand in a small AoE. Sorks have a super slow cast. Blah, blah, blah. Nightblade just get lots of passive increase to res again. Yeah, but you just use your things, use your daggers or whatever else you're using to get it. That's how you get your resources back. Anyway, hi Lamnakan. You think the devs have learned to listen to what people want in the game? I don't know. No, let's not jump to conclusions here. I don't believe that at all. What I think they've done, maybe if we're lucky, because this could just be a fluke, I think the problem with BFA is they put everything into large features of the game, like big things. And there wasn't very much in the way of little things, you know, your little stocking fillers of content. And this is a classic example of some of that. And they had it in Legion. You know, you had, for example, the withered training scenario. You had the Nomi thing for people that were into that. You know, you had the Mage Tower, all these little bits of things that you didn't have to do. You know, it didn't get you artifact power or anything, but you could do it. It was fun. You could get some stuff from it. Just hunting for the skins. You know, the artifacts, weapons, skins was just some of that example if you wanted to do it. And that, to me, seemed to be absent from BFA. It's like they put everything into these, you know, the war fronts or the islands or the campaign, the war campaign. And maybe what they've thought, and I only say maybe they've realised actually just some of the little things you just throw in can be fun as well. So I'm not sure it's really Blizzard learning to listen to what people want, because I will bet you they'll still be similarly belligerent about their larger things. And you think, but you carry on with your optimism. I like a bit of optimism. You really like the fact that Ian said that player housing is still on the table. No. I mean, they said for many years it was definitely going to happen, and it didn't happen. Are we really going to believe that simply being on the table to shut us up means anything? I will believe it when I see it, not before. Are my students excited about the last season of Game of Thrones? I don't know. Some of them, I guess, will be. I mean, I won't be watching it until it comes out on Blu-ray. I'll just get it on Blu-ray and watch it then. I don't watch telly. Do I remember first coming across Blaze Edge Mountains, that path down, and seeing the height and scale of the area? No. All I remember is not liking it. Being bored by the quests and having unreasonable corpse runs if I was ever careless enough to get myself killed, which I was a couple of times. Hi, Flyfer. I have already mentioned the map thing, yes. But what I haven't mentioned yet, which I was going to at the start, is something that I'm not at all happy about with 8.2. Because obviously I already knew that we were going to get a gnome-like zone, Mechagon. And I already knew that although they dare to call the things in their mechagnomes, they're not mechagnomes. They've got fleshy things on them. What I didn't realise is that they were really pulling out all the stops. No, I wasn't happy about that. But I was okay with that. Just. What I'm less happy about is the fact that they've come up with a cunning plan for keeping us there. We have got to build a gnome settlement or something. We have to actually build things for gnomes. We have to tinker, in fact, I think is the word that was used. So, no. So I might not even be back in 8.2. But I sort of want to be, because the story's getting more interesting. I don't want to do the gnome thing. You think BFA has been a victim of old school authoritarian corporate leading, killing creativity, turn everything into a lukewarm fuzz? I mean, okay. I think it's as simple as this. There were people who made a gaming company and they made games. And the gaming company made good games. And then those became popular and their studio got larger. And they had to hire more staff and they got more staff in. And they stay at the top of the pile because it's their company. And these people who used to design games now look at profit spreadsheets and they're far removed from the games development side of it. And so what they've done is to hire other people to do that. And those other people are not creating their own projects. These are not games creators. They are employees. They are people who are brought in, you know, because they like playing games. And some of them seemed intelligent enough to be able to apply certain things. But they don't necessarily have the same attitude towards games because they're not making their own games. They're making games to order. And I think that's what kills it a little bit. Those spreadsheets probably looking quite sad at the moment. I don't know. They didn't look sad at the last financial reveal, did they? And that would have taken into account the few months of BFA. I don't think they're looking... You know, just because you lose a load of players doesn't mean to say that it's still not looking, you know, like a £1 billion earner, which it is. Steve Jobs 2-minute interview on why Xerox failed. Hi, Dejan. You make your spreadsheet super bright and full of colours. Oh dear. Do you know what? I annoyed the hell out of someone. This is many years ago. Not where I work now, I have to say, but someone. And they always do that. You know how it is. Well, you say you know how it is. You may know how it is. Where you get corporate, you're in a meeting and someone takes you through a presentation which includes charts or spreadsheets or some other form of statistics. And they show you these nice charts that look pretty, but they don't understand what they're really talking about. They just say a load of things and point to a chart and everyone goes, ooh. And if they're talking about some improvement, they make sure the chart goes up. And if they're talking about the decline in a bad thing, they show the chart going down. And everyone goes, ooh. But there was this one person who was trying to show us this system of value added. There's different types of what's called value added in education. The idea is you can't just compare one school with it. If you've got one school and it's got lots of very low aspirational kids in it, they're not going to do as well in exams. Doesn't mean to say the school's doing badly because the results are not as great. As a higher aspirational area, their school, obviously the parents are really pushing their kids. They're obviously going to get better grades. So you have what's called value added, which doesn't actually work because there's many flaws in the system. But the idea is you get to see if the school has made any progress with them, and that's your value added. And so this person was standing up there with all these charts and things, trying to explain the system. And I kept asking questions. Hand was up. Ask a question. And there's one particular, and I can't remember exactly what it was, but I asked her to clarify something. I said, so are you saying blah, blah, blah? I can't remember what it was. And she said, yes. And okay. And then a bit later, she contradicted herself. And I put my hand up again. Because every now and then she stopped for questions. Hands up. And I said, hang on a minute, just before you said that blah, blah, blah meant this. And now you're saying the exact opposite. What's going on? And because she didn't know what she was talking about, and she got past that. And it got to the point where whenever she asked for questions, I put my hand up. She ignored me. She asked other people. And everyone else in the room twigged what was happening. So, this literally happened. It was actually hilarious. So again, at another point later on, she asked for any questions, and I put my hand up. No one else put the hand up. Everyone just looked at me, and she went, "No, right, I'll carry on then." She just completely ignored it, and I was the only one there. Oh, it's funny. But yeah, people should understand what they're talking about, and if they don't, they really shouldn't use statistics in a room with a mathematician in it at all. Annoys when people misuse statistics like this. But anyway, anyway, so what we're going mystified, sorry. So the creatives get replaced by the marketing people, get promoted because they make money. Well, yeah, well, with some, I mean, there's obviously the different departments in there, because that's the other thing. You've got to remember, these guys that now the heads of Blizzard, but removed from the games development side of it, when they were making their own games, there was no one telling them, you can't do that because it won't be as profitable. They made it because it would be fun to do it. Whereas now, even the senior developers, even the likes of Ian Hazacostas, I don't put the blame for things I don't like entirely at his feet. A lot of it he's got to accept responsibility for. But he will also get constraints from people above him who do have an eye on the balance sheets. And they will be saying, well, because, no one's going to seriously believe that games developers want, like, the sort of time gating we have in the game. That's not something a developer comes up with. And the same when they were trying to do the annual expansions. We want an expansion every year. That never came from a developer. That was never a developer idea. That would have come from the finance department, essentially, I suppose. The people making the financial decisions, that is, rather than the actual accounts department. So, but it's just inevitable. I think we just have to accept it. It's just joined the list now, hasn't it? Of large game studios that people have lost satisfaction with. You got to remember, even when people moan about the likes of EA can't have been a hated game studio right from the start. It had to build up a reputation for making games people wanted to play. It just, these games companies, when they get very large, I don't know, it's almost like it's easier just to use tried and tested methods, let smaller independent game studios come up with new ideas, and then if it works, buy them, nick them, strip them down, bring it into your own fold. Which is why, of course, there was so much whooping and hollering when Bungie detached itself from Activision Blizzard again. A little bit early. They were always going to anyway, but a little bit early. I mean, that wasn't quite the same as an EA type acquisition, was it, if we're honest? So, but anyway, with how much money they trying to make, I'm surprised Blizzard's not monetized Overwatch more. You want to spend money, but nothing to spend on. I mean, there is more they could do to monetize, to be fair. And that's why I'm always really confused. When they make decisions that are clearly designed to squeeze out a bit of profit, I always think to myself, but surely there are more efficient ways of doing it, like expanding cosmetic items on the online store. And I know people are going to go, oh, no, we don't want that at all. Well, I don't care. I don't mind it. But I don't understand why they don't do it. I understand why they won't do loot boxes. They've made it very clear the whole loot box thing is bad. And I sort of believe it, because at the end of the day, they could have put loot boxes in the game and they haven't done. And I don't, I believe that they won't. But there are so many ways they could. There are players who will spend more on the game. I mean, they have merchandise in physical items. In fact, it's quite ridiculous, really. There are more physical merchandising items you can buy, not just for Blizzard, for WoW specifically, than there are cosmetic items on the online store for playing in the game itself. I don't understand that. I don't follow that mindset that does that, because stuff on the online store has a way higher profit margin, surely to goodness, than the physical stuff. And you don't have to ship it out anywhere either. It's just there. Automated even. Don't even need people to sell it to them. So I have no idea why they don't do more if they're really after profits. So it's there's a little bit of a paradox to it for me. And I'd love to ask them questions like that. Like, why don't you do more of this? Why do you do this, which pisses people off, and not this, which would piss much fewer people off and make you money as well? Anyway, Blue has a video from yesterday looking at the dev studios and what incentives they have to make specific types of games, mostly live services versus single player games. What was the conclusion? I mean, obviously most studios don't. I know as soon as, someone will say, oh, well, single player games are not where it's at, then someone will point to single player games where it's absolutely at. But there are not many of them. And it could be argued the reason why the few that come onto the market do really well is because there are so few. And maybe if more people made them, it would just spread an existing player base thinner. And maybe that's the fear. EA, Bethesda, Blizzard used to be names that inspired quality. Well, yes, indeed. Indeed. Yes, I've heard about the latest Elder Scrolls mobile game. I have certainly not played it, of course. You believe they'll stay away from loot boxes until they don't? Well, so will I. I will indeed. I don't. I think there are less divisive ways. Plus, you've also got to bear in mind there are various countries in Europe that are already thinking about legislating against it, and it wouldn't necessarily take a big push for the EU to decide to get involved with the whole loot box situation. I can see legislation coming in place in the next 10 years on it. So it's not necessarily of the future. Well, it's obviously not the future because it's here now. But I don't think it's a long-term solution for making money, because I can absolutely see legislation against it, at least in Europe or the EU. What do I think about the whole microtransaction pet that would fund esports? 20%, 25% of sales went to esports prize pool. I don't mind what they do with the money. If they bring out a cosmetic pet or mount or something like that to sell on the online store, fine. You know, obviously each year they do the one for charity, don't they? Towards the end of the year, I think it is. They do one for charity. I get that one. You know, other times they'll do one where just all the profits go to them. That's fine. If they want to use it to fund esports again, that's fine. If people want to buy it, not for the pet, but because, oh, some of it's going to esports, I think that's a little odd. But if people want to do that, it's their money. But I don't really have a view on it. It's like they're producing something that you don't need. It doesn't make you more powerful in the game. They're going to charge a certain amount for it. That's fine. And I suppose by saying that it's not all just profit, that they're actually putting it into something. But then by putting it into esports, they're putting it into, you know, growing their name within esports. I mean, that's another little conundrum, isn't it? Because they're doing that, saying that they want to fund more involvement in esports, at the same time as they're pulling back from esports, which I think is a mistake, because esports are surely only going to get much, much bigger in the next 10 years. And I really do think Blizzard should make more of an effort in that direction. I don't think they make enough of an effort. Not that it's the sort of thing that interests me. I mean, you know, by my saying that they should make more of an effort into it, what I'm really saying is they should develop games that I wouldn't like to play. But to be honest with you, I've pretty much given up on Blizzard anyway. I have now just added Blizzard to the list of game studios who, I'm not saying I won't play their games, but you know, if a new Warcraft game came out, I'd certainly want to try it before I buy it, put it that way. I wouldn't like go, oh, this is going to be fantastic. I would be cautious. And at some point, of course, there has to be a new WoW game, doesn't there? Or Warcraft game, should I say. Like Sony will make God of War to get people on consoles. Yeah, exactly, yeah. Precisely. So, I mean, that's what it is. It's not altruistic doing... I mean, I don't mind what they spend it on. They can say that the money's going to go on donuts for all their employees, for all I care. They can spend it on what they want. But it's not like they're saying... It's not like one of these people who waste plastic, shoving things through my letterbox to put old clothes in that they'll collect so money goes to charity. And it's like, when you look at it, it's basically like 1% of the proceeds go to charity. These are commercial people making money, and people think they're donating to charity. No, if you donate to charity, take it to the charity shop yourself. Then all of the money goes to charity. But anyway, but it's the same sort of thing. It's like, you know, so much of it is going to these esports thing. I mean, 25% is not even that much. So it's, you know... But it's not something I'm going to get het up about, because, like I say, it's rubbish everywhere. It's up to them what they do, but it is in their interests to fund more stuff for esports, in terms of bringing people in, to get people to become fans of Blizzard. Do I think it should be a higher percentage? Yeah. I mean, if you're going to produce a pet or a mount or whatever to fund esports, I think you should take out the money that it costs to pay the artist to do it, And then everything else should be going to the esports thing. If that's what the purpose of it is, that's what you should do with it. So the more they are able to invest in, the better. What Balula was getting at was the will make a loss in a 50 quid game to sell a 400 quid console. Yeah, well, that makes perfect sense. It's what they call a loss leader. When I was at university, the supermarkets had what were called the beans wars, where basically supermarkets were selling tins of baked beans for a penny. And you can't make profit on a penny, but the idea was to get you in the stores, so you get your baked beans, and then you get other stuff as well, and then they make a profit from you by the till. And that's it's called a loss leader, and that's what companies do. It's only the same, isn't it, about games companies where the game is free to play, but they get you in so that you then buy the online currency or whatever it is you need to do to actually play the game properly. Where some take the piss, and I know obviously Boogie has a particular gripe about this, is when you have a games company that releases a full-priced game and then there's all the microtransactions and DLCs and stuff like that they also charge top dollar for as well, not just a little bit. It's not like they charge full price game and then it's relatively modest prices for the DLCs. It's like full whack for those as well. I mean, that's just taking the piss. But at the same time, if people pay it, why not? They're a business, they're not a charity. They're there to make rich people richer. I might come back for the next WoW expansion. Am I 100% off it? Oh, no, 100% off it. You'll know when I'm 100% off it because this will stop. No. I am going to give it the next expansion. I'm not saying I am certain the next expansion will not be good. I am pessimistic about that. I mean, at some point, I thought this Easter I might play some WoW, but I haven't. So, but at some point, surely I will play some more this expansion. And then I will keep my beady eyes on the next expansion, which presumably will go out on Alpha around about the same time as it did last year. Like February or whatever, February, March. Next year. And we'll see. I will see. Give you Star Trek Online too. Ugh. I never played that, so it wouldn't appeal to me, that one. Sci-fi games. I have this weird thing. Do you know I have this weird thing? Sci-fi games don't appeal to me. I was playing a board game, a Warhammer game. Blackstone Fortress. They call it Warhammer Quest, Blackstone Fortress. It's the 40k version of Warhammer, or the new Warhammer Quest, which is still a load of crap. Well, I say it's a load of crap. It's not that bad, but it's not as good as the original, which I have. And what was it now? Yeah, so I was playing, I was thinking to myself, if this was fantasy, I'd be enjoying it a lot more. And I don't know why, because it's exactly the same rules. It's the same rules. It's just 40k models instead of fancy models. But somehow, and it's always been like this, like I enjoyed playing Warcraft. I did not like playing Command and Conquer, wouldn't play it. I'm not saying it's the same game, but Command and Conquer was a perfectly good game. I had no issue with the mechanics or the gameplay. It was just, well, it's not fantasy, is it? And I've never understood why, because I enjoy reading sci-fi books and watching films. Do not like playing sci-fi games. Unless there's a fancy element to it, like Star Wars. If I've got a lightsaber, that's fantasy. Anyway, let's have a little look. Has Notre Dame Fire been extinguished yet? I'm not sure. I got into trouble today on that one. My views on that were not popular. Never mind. Did I see Zenimax said so many people are coming to EU PC? I wonder where they're all coming from. Yeah, actually, that's a good point. Because very recently on ESO, it's been noticeable. There's been queues. Some of them have been bloody long queues as well, like 20 plus minutes to log on. I've never had queues before until the last couple of weeks. So, yeah, it wouldn't surprise me If an awful... And there's also, because I'll tell you another thing, there are a few WoW players doing ESO videos, like Nixium is getting into his ESO videos. He's getting right into that game. Full price expansion plus sub plus still £27 faction change takes the piss to mate. Yeah. Yes. I mean, the prices for the services are... I mean, I still think that with your online subscription, you should get like tokens that eventually add up to being able to just get a transfer or something like that for free. It would surely help retain players. Just, you know, something like every 3 months you get a free server transfer. Or enough of this like currency for that. And it could just be a currency that's just used for the online store. Could be for services or cosmetic items, whatever. Zenimax pulling out all the stops with this expansion to take as much of WoW's player base as it can. Well, I don't know that that's a specific strategy, but it's certainly, yeah, it's certainly what I would do. Why not? They are now potentially, because it's very difficult to get the numbers from either of them, WoW particularly, they may well have more active players now than WoW does. That is possible. Their dungeon queues. Oh, God, yeah. I tried a dungeon queue for the very first time last week when I was streaming. Absolute. That is a nightmare. You think queues are bad in WoW? Whoa. Not seen anything like it. The WoW dungeon system is years ahead by comparison. But anyway. Especially the PvP queue is still broken. You can get inside a battleground and get stuck on looking for more players for 10 or more minutes. See, I've not tried doing any battlegrounds in there. I mean, I just quite like Cyrodiil. Even if I can't get in a group, and I can never get into a group, I just go going around even if I get my arse kicked. I just usually stand back and heal or shoot or something like that. I have a great old time in Cyrodiil. I like it. Even when I'm not in a group, as I say. If you're in a group, you get much more enjoyment out of it, naturally. Another thing Balula mentioned was the muted response to 8.2. All the content creators are seeing lower viewing numbers. What, in PC games or MMOs we're talking here? Oh, sorry, you mean content creators as in YouTubers. Sorry, I thought you meant games. You're right. Yeah, are they? I've not really checked. That's... well, I'll tell you what, should we have a little... Let's have a little check here. If I have a little look on Social Blade, let's have a look. Retaliation and Inevitable, because obviously that's a good one to look at. Retaliation and Inevitable, do games. I always forget about that part of their channel name. Right, let's have a look then. So their monthly views peaked, and as might be expected, last August, the month that BFA released, and then yes, went down. Actually, I wouldn't say... I mean, although technically it has declined over the life of BFA, there was a spike. If I... Actually, let's see if I can... hang on. Let me see if I can show this. Let's... I don't know what the best way is to show you this. I'll try doing it as a web page first of all. Right. Yes, go away. Oh, there we go. Right, so if I just extend that a lot. Oh, no. Okay. No, I don't want to cut myself off. So if we look here, you know, if we look, okay, you'd say here, okay, it's gone down. If you just looked at that as a snippet. But where it's gone down to is where they were before the BFA hype as well. So maybe it's just that their channel hasn't grown as such, but their views have just, you know, it could be argued that may have happened anyway. Do you think? Blimey, I'll get more views on my political channel, Jesus. But then WoW is very, very niche, isn't it? Yeah. So, yeah, it could just be that it's settled. you know, and it may be the same for everyone else. Should we look at Preachers? Because he's had a channel that's been around for a lot longer. Although he doesn't really do much, does he? Let's look at Balula. As much as I am loath to do so. Oh, come here. Ah! Oh, my God. Right. What do you mean not found? What's the name of his bloody channel? I can't remember now. Am I spelling something wrong? B-E-L-U-L-L-A-R, or is it B-E-L-L-U-L-A-R? I can't remember the name of his actual channel. Oh, God. Someone tell me the name. I'm spelling it completely wrong. Someone spell it for me, please, correctly. Anyway. Where was I? You've been doing Dungeons of Tank literally 2 second queues. Oh, across YouTube and Twitch. I thought it was that. It's not coming up though. Hold on. Tell you what. Hold on. Let's try and do it in here. Right. Okay. It's now. Oh, I see. It's down there. That was another random warning. Okay. It's fine. So let us see what we shall see. Oh my God. Right. I'm just going to cover my face up. You don't need to see it anyway for now. Right. So peak. His peak's just before. Oh, no, it was about the same. BFA launch. Then it went down. Now, actually, his views have gone down to a level not seen since early 2017. So potentially for him, he's lost views. Yeah. Maybe, yes, for him, he has potentially lost views then. Oh, well. Balula is making a transition to general games industry coverage. Smart move. Well, ultimately, WoW is not only is in itself quite niche, because it's one game, it's a game that is declining, regardless of whether you think the game's getting better or not. The player base and therefore the interest is declining. That's quite clear. But at some point, one of two things will happen. Either the game will stop, in which case you lose your source material, or you will stop enjoying it, in which case you either force yourself to carry on with it whilst not enjoying it, and then that doesn't usually turn out well, or you stop and try something else cold turkey, and then that doesn't work out well either. So frankly, better to try and diversify bit by bit until you've turned your channel into something that used to do WoW and does WoW every now and then and something else, I guess, yes. I mean, in his case, of course, he doesn't rely upon it entirely for revenue because he works as well. Albeit freelance, I think, isn't it? Saw a comment on Balula's video, something like, I'm bored of WoW, I think I'll have my fun elsewhere. Oh, dear. Yes. But that's shocking, that is absolutely shocking. Right, let's just close this down, then we don't need that anymore. I mean, it's a tough thing because as soon as you lose players, it's very difficult to get them back. Very difficult. You know, because if you think that a lot of the players that quit after BFA, sorry, and that big lump that is strongly suspected, almost certain, surely, in like October, I think it was. Maybe late September, early October. I mean, those players must have been players that really wanted BFA to work. And they will not have quit in I'm going to quit till it gets better. A lot of them will have quit as in, that's the last straw type quit. And very, very unlikely to get those players back. Very unlikely indeed. Without some major change to the game. Because it's not a case with those players of getting the game back up to the point where they wouldn't have quit. You have to almost get it back up to the point where they would like to return to it like it's a new game. So they are, I mean, I would have thought in managed decline at the moment. But I don't know how they're managing it. Are they managing it by planning the next Warcraft game, or are they not? Because, I mean, this can still run for many more years, but a new game takes several years to develop, doesn't it? You're not saying you'll never go back. But Blizzard came across really spiteful with the extra long bans after not fixing stuff. Well, I mean, they should have been more communicative about it. I mean, that I would say that about anything that they do. But as I say, I have less sympathy for the bans as well. I mean, I'll grant you in this case, it was a ban that was, or rather, it was an offence that was easily wiped out, and, you know, a normal suspension would have done it, I guess. But they should communicate with things. And they have this, and I've said this before, they have this attitude of not mentioning things that are not quite right with the game until they're ready to fix it. The bans didn't bother you much, but the lack of feedback in the ultimate invite revocation to preach. Ultimate invite. Oh, that thing, I know what you're talking about. Well, again, to be fair to them, what sort of message does it say to invite a banned player? A player that was banned for breaking your rules? I've got to have some sympathy with Blizzard. I can see on the one hand, that looks a bit spiteful. But on the other hand, you're talking about someone who cheated the game and knew they were cheating the game. They can't claim that they didn't really understand the system, and indeed didn't, to his credit. What sort of message does it send out? So now I've got some sympathy with Blizzard on that one. It would be disappointing to have had to do that, but ultimately, I think it would have sent out a bad message. But anyway, something Bell, is he Bell now? Okay. Mentioned is that people quitting for a while is nothing new, but this time people are leaving for a while and finding that actually they don't miss it. That is certainly the case in my case, but again, for me, it's very different. It's not, all excited about BFA. Actually, no, it's a load of crap. I'm not playing it. For me, obviously, it's the raiding thing, but I have to say I'm not even missing the raiding now. I've now, it's out of my system, and I'm now looking at it, and I'm now fairly sure that even if I won the lottery and could just be at leisure, I wouldn't even attempt to get back. I'm quite sure. Go watch his I Let You Down video. Do you know what? Do you know what's hilarious? In the up next, it's the How I Let You Down video. Maybe I will watch it, yeah. It's certainly there. YouTube is telling me to watch it. He offered to be the poster child to keep that invite in play. Poster child, what does that mean? Is that a term? Does that mean white knighting it up? What does that mean? Someone tell me what that means, please. Preach is such a big figure in the community. The world first race spoke in volumes. Hang on, what am I missing about the world first race and Preach? He wasn't in it. It was to a summit that has a huge impact on the game. It shouldn't matter. Was it really a summit? Was it? I would argue it was a PR stunt. Regardless, there's nothing more to it than that. If you looked at the guest list, who did you see? You saw people that are the most positive people about WoW in the community. Now, I'm not disparaging the people that were on that guest list. And I'm also not disparaging Blizzard for doing that. Why on earth would you invite people who have been critical of what you're currently doing? Wouldn't make sense. But nonetheless, it's not a summit. A summit is there to share ideas. That was there for PR purposes. It's like, okay, you guys have credibility. These are the messages we want passing on. Can you hype it? And they didn't put it like that, I'm quite sure. But nonetheless, put things to them, very excited about content that they haven't played and they haven't tested it out. That's the thing. You're getting them to pass on information about content that hasn't been played or properly play tested at any rate, even if they gave them a bit of a demo while they were there. I don't know, maybe they did. I I would argue summit's not quite the right word there. Let's have a look. He said, ban me, but let me go still. He wanted to be the meme of a ban. Yeah, but again, it's just the message it sends out. The message that sends out is, this guy broke the rules, we've banned him, but actually, you know, we're still inviting him in and we're being all pally. It's like, it's not good. It's not good. He was the only one at the world first that had a personality. Yeah, he was the only one at the world first. What am I missing here? Is this another event I was talking about? This world first to me means when a guild kills a boss for the first time in the world. Preach was doing the coverage. Oh, okay, all right then. Sorry, I missed that completely then. So he was commenting on it. I get you. He was doing the coverage. In my opinion, head and shoulders above the rest. Fair enough. Well, he is. You know, he is very charismatic. He has a good personality for that sort of thing. I will give you. And of course, he has the raiding experience as well. So even if Preach had gone, it would have been his last time anyway, since he's not one to seem excited about crap content. Well, again, that's another reason not to bother with him. When ZeniMax does this, they do it for real, not a publicity. Yes, I mean, that's the thing. And it's not just ZeniMax. There are games companies who do live streams, and the comments at the side, they respond to some of them. You can't respond to all of them, but they respond to some of them. It's actually worth doing live. It is actually live. For all we know, this live stream that we get might not even be live. I mean, I think it is. But for all we know, it's not. For all we know, it's still pre-recorded and they just put it out on Twitch. Because they pay no attention to anything that's going on in the chat. And of course, yeah, there's so much going on, you couldn't pick out everything anyway. But you can pick some things out. No way was it a summit just because people are popular YouTubers doesn't make them great games designers. Well, there's that as well. But to be fair, they don't have to be great games designers. You know, that would still be fine. You know, but what you want in a summit is you want a range of different types of people, don't you? To comment from different points of view. And they didn't have that there. What they had were people that were very positive about Blizzard and WoW. Wasn't the whole meeting hush-hush, though? Well, it wasn't afterwards, was it? It was done. He could even promise to act like he didn't go rather than miss his feedback. No, I mean, that's a bit sad, that. So, no, it was unfortunate, but it unfortunately was that was the decision they inevitably would have had to make. Like I say, it just doesn't set a good example. And, you know, I don't also know, like, why, when he says, like, okay, let's go with this comment here. He could even promise to act like he didn't go rather than then miss his feedback. If they want his feedback, they can have his feedback. He produces YouTube content. You know, he will test out the content on the PTR and he will offer his views on it. And if Blizzard watch it, you know, which there's a reasonable chance they will watch it, then they have his feedback. He didn't need to go to California to offer that feedback, did he? So it wasn't about feedback. Nothing to do with feedback. It was about getting people with credibility in the community to be the first people to reveal certain things. You know, his wife was mad at him. Why? Did she want him out of the country for some reason? What was she mad at him about? But here again, it was a one-day summit compared to Eve devs who lasted a week. If they really wanted feedback, one day isn't much time. If they really wanted feedback, it would be a proper cross-section of the community as well. You know, they don't. It wasn't for feedback. Imagine having a face-to-face conversation. Oh yeah, imagine me having a face-to-face conversation with them. They would never allow that. She's his publicist now. Wow. Okay. Even commenting here, talking to you is tough due to streaming delays. It gets worse when you look at forums or videos because you can be willingly oblivious. Can I? Okay. But they can't invite everyone anyway. They could invite a lot more. I mean, a summit would be more than 5 people sat around a table anyway. Using Blizzard, okay. But no, if they want to actually engage with the community, there's loads of ways to do it. They could easily do it. Am I running for the European elections? No. I don't even have a passport. How would I even get to Brussels or Strasbourg or wherever the hell I would be going from, you know, time to time? And also, no, I'm not. I would be no good as a politician. I speak my mind. That's no good. I don't say what people want me to say. They used Blizzard fan streamers to unveil the new content to try and buffer the negative response. Exactly that. That is precisely it. You know, the people who've gone there have had a nice all expenses paid trip. You know, they've been made to feel special. Well, they are special. They are special. It's the community that's made them special, not Blizzard. But they've nonetheless been given the red carpet treatment, I've no doubt. Got to use the fancy coffee machine probably. And you know, come away going, oh, and obviously it's a two-way process, isn't it? You know, they are positive about the game, and then the game's developers in return give them these opportunities for these little exclusives. Just prefer to be on the soapbox in my YouTube speakers corner. I have no problem with going to a parliament and standing up and saying things, but the people who elect me would not be impressed with me because it may not agree with what they say. I don't give a crap. I don't try and say what I think people want me to say. The people in France would hate it. I don't even know why. It was a building. It's just a building. And everyone kept talking about the icon. Oh, it's an icon. Yes, the icon's still there. It's going to be there in 50 years' time. It's going to be there in 500 years' time still. Anyway, never mind that. The timing of the summit just before a PTR drop does make it seem a PR event rather than a genuine attempt to improve the game via feedback. There's zero attempt there to get that feedback. They have if I wanted feedback as well, they would be listening much more to the theory crafters, not exclusively because there are creative design ideas that you don't need to be a theory crafter for, but they'd be listening much more to them than they are, because they do have a hotline to them. They do actually sort of properly communicate with those guys. Just they don't always take it seriously at times. Or I don't get the impression they do anyway. Don't even like travelling. Do you know how much travelling would be involved as a member of any parliament? It'd be insane. I don't even like going. I need to go and do my grocery shopping at some point this week. I don't even like doing that. I put that off. But anyway, yeah. We will. I haven't actually watched any of the videos of the people that went to this so-called summit yet. You planted the seed, your work is done. They said they've been working on the new Heart of Azeroth design since 1 week after BFA launch. It's so underwhelming for that much development time and hasn't even got a finished UI yet. Right, here's the thing then. So if they're saying 1 week after launch, what the hell is that about? Why 1 week after launch? You know, was it, oh, all these people that spend all this time testing the game for us said it was all a load of shit and it's not going to work. But what do they know? Did it really take only a week to verify that actually everyone else hated it as well? Was that really it? I don't understand that statement. I didn't actually see the statement either, or I missed it if I did. But that to me would be ridiculous. But you say underwhelming for that much development time. The thing is, there's been an awful lot of development time. You know, the very senior people, like the super senior people, are also working on WoW Classic. Where they announced, didn't they? There's not going to be any... you can't contact a GM to get loot transferred. Sort it out yourself. Which is fair enough. Because I think that would have been one of their fears. How much is this going to take up GM time? because it, you know, could take a lot. So they basically said, no, you're not having it. Hasn't even got a finished UI yet, no. But again, we don't know for the developers working on it how many other projects they've got on, do we? So when hunters take the intellect daggers because you know they need more mana regen. Well, you know, the daggers, at least as it was to begin with, I think it might have changed a bit. But in Molten Core, they had bloody good DPS. It was only in the later raids when they tuned down the DPS of caster stuff. But it was bloody good DPS. So I wouldn't have blamed rogues for taking caster daggers if they'd had blue dungeon stuff. You shall be a warlock in Classic, it is decided. And then you get to scream at every hunter in the raid for knocking your dots off. Have fun with that. Hunters? Who was giving it to a hunter? Oh, hunter. You did say hunters. Oh, dear. Andrew, that was the meme, wasn't it? Everything was hunter loot. We had hunters who would pick stuff up just for the looks of it, but they were only allowed it once everyone who could usefully use it had it. Hunters in Classic are underrated. No, they could be very good, and they didn't have to be marksmen. Beastmaster hunters could be very good as well. It's just that you needed a bit of control, and most Beastmaster hunters didn't have that control. But you don't give them caster daggers still. Doesn't matter how underrated they were. They had just... Hang on. They had just... Wait there. I'm pretty sure from what Tallis and Evertal said. And I thought he did Theorycraft and Bigwigs thing. Hang on. Who? They had... Just wait. Yeah, but... That's one person. And... one person. Dots, child arrow not applying dots. They have to apply dots. And Curse of Agony was the big one because that ticked up. You had, you know, if that got knocked off in the first few seconds, that was annoying. Hadn't done any damage. Did its damage at the end, exploded at the end. Some bugger knocked that off when it had a few seconds left to go. Oh, there was trouble. There was trouble. Once saw Hunter Million mobs in vanilla, asked why I wasn't using arrows. His reply was it was saving them for needy times. But then, well, they were given, you know, they were given the tools to fight in close combat. And to be fair, we can't on the one hand complain about how on rails World of Warcraft is as a theme park, and on the other hand, not allow people to express themselves. I did used to raise quizzical eyebrows though when hunters used to nick, like when you're on the cusp of like level 40 and they'd nick strength mail bracers. I remember one time in particular, a bloody hunter, pain in the ass, and he was a melee hunter as well. He was using close combat attacks and he wasn't using a bow, so he felt justified in it, even though I don't think strength really gave him very much. He still wanted agility. But I can't remember. Remember the Hunter tier 2.5 had spell power. Well, yeah, I mean, they used arcanes and nature damage. Paladins needed everything. We needed every single stat. All the stats. We needed strength for attack power. We needed agility for crit. We needed intellect for spell crit. We needed... and spell power as well, really. But we needed mana regen. We needed spirit. Needed everything. Everything. My paladin, in his best DPS gear, right at the end of vanilla, had almost no strength. I had less stamina than some people in proper scrubby dungeon gear. My DPS was insane, but I had next to no health. Wasn't good for PvP. I had another set that was a bit more suitable for PvP. But my super DPS set, the one that got me top damage on Lotheb, that did not give me much stamina. Fortunately on that fight, I didn't really need a lot. How many mages did I see with Crusader on their staff? I don't remember. I don't remember seeing any, but I bet there were. I do remember inspecting a warlock that had a strength ring though, and it wasn't strength intellect, it wasn't gorilla, it was strength stamina or something. It was not strength intellect. I also remember getting asked as a paladin if I could make a portal because I was wearing judgment gear. Oh, they're wearing a dress, must be a mage. Even though I had a big old sword on my back. Actually, would have I had a sword then? What was I using when I had judgment? I think I had, oh, it wasn't a big sword. I had Bone Reaver's Edge. I then got Severance later on, but by then I'd have had more of the Anchorage set for DPS. My McDonald's tier. So what do you mean McDonald's? Doesn't have stars on a cap. Druid Impala PvP gearing was crazy because you needed everything. Yeah, you did. Well, it didn't really stop in TBC until the end. They sort of changed things towards the end. In fact, I remember when they changed the... Because you needed both spell power and attack power and things like that. And I remember there was... Tier gear had the gem... When you had bonuses for slotting gems of the right colour. And some of those bonuses were for spell power. And then they changed it at the end of TBC. So you didn't need all that. So you got your spell power from your attack power type thing. But they still had that set. They didn't change the set bonus on those gem slot things. I did have Severance, yes. So for leveling, do you actually see any damage abilities as a pally? Do you actually have any damage abilities as a pally? Yeah. Seal of Command, you can get that quite early on. It's very nice. It's not a Fast and Furious spec like it has become later on in World of Warcraft, you'll find. It's very much a apply seal auto attack type spec. You can do more if you want, but you will very quickly run out of mana. So you are really talking seal. I mean you could, if you wanted to go mad, seal Crusader, Judge Crusader, Seal of Command, then auto attack. If you wanted to. I mean, Seal of Righteous to begin with, and then Seal of Command when you get Seal of Command. You could do that. But that would waste an amount of mana you didn't really need to waste. So yeah, you won't find it Fast and Furious at all. But you can do damage, it's all fine. I'm not saying you do as much damage as some others, but it's not as bad as people make out. You loved all the options in vanilla and TBC gearing, going for either spell power or plus healing, or stamina or until spell crit. That is terrible. It was I had so many different pieces of gear that I would regularly swap out for different bosses. Like regularly swap out. I had different sets for different bosses. It was insane. And you know, in the days when I used to do very, very moderate theory crafting myself. Oops, where am I going? But I did not love having to have all the things. You had a 2.5 hour duel in TBC, Resto Shaman versus Holy Paladin. You lost when your gear broke and he stunned then one-shotted me. I'd have given up on that one long before. I do remember, though, having a little duel with our Protection Paladin tank. That took a long time. That took a very long time in TBC. I don't actually think it ended, really. I think we just had to agree to run away from each other. Pally was bloody boring to level. Of course it was. You just used to auto-attack. People joke about entering combat and walking away to put the kettle. It's not far from the truth. It's not at all far from the truth. Like, for anyone else, like a mage, if you got a big lag spike, you would think, oh, crap. As a paladin, it's like, that's fine. I'm not doing anything anyway. The mob would be dead when you came out of the lag spike. Pick it up, loot, go somewhere else. You just had to be very, very careful to... Because something you don't have to think about in modern WoW, but you have to think about it then. If you go and grab a mob Well, certainly you don't rush into a group of them for a start off. But even if you're picking on one on its own, be aware of patrol cycles. You may have to pull it back. There was a lot of pulling mobs back because it would take you a while to kill some things. You know, and if it takes, say, 10, 15 seconds to kill a mob, and a patrol comes along, all of a sudden you've got another mob. And of course the mobs run away, which is a pain in the ass. So, and all you had was this stun on quite a long cooldown. And you wouldn't necessarily even kill the mob in the duration of the stun. You got the stun at fairly low level, I think. So that was it. But you know, it's just. So yeah, you had to pay attention at least to your surroundings. Make sure you were in a patrol path, and if you were, start to move out of it. But the combat was boring. There's no getting away from that. Even at level cap, wasn't exactly interesting. It could be effective. There's no point in trying to, you know, suggest that it couldn't be effective if you got away with blessing duty. If you didn't have to bless 40 people every 5 minutes, because otherwise that was a non-starter. But no, it wasn't interesting. I don't think a lot of classes were interesting though, to be fair. A lot of them were fairly basic. Duskwood was bad for pulling one with a time on any class. I liked Duskwood. I was more thinking in particular of like the Worgen in Duskwood, but also Murlocs in Wetlands was one. You know, there were a few little areas where you just needed to pull back. And communicating in dungeons, because you couldn't just expect the tank to take everything as well. Locks run versus Resto Shami TBC and then die to Flame Shock. No experience of Resto Shami from then. Only in TBC. The only experience I had of a shaman in vanilla was when I created an orc one just for a laugh. Smacked some peons over the head. I think I did it up to maybe like level 20. Just, you know, did some totem quests. Because yeah, you had to do quests to get your totems then. You had to do quest to learn resurrect or redemption. You know, your res spell for a paladin. The number of people that would not res in dungeons because they'd say, I ain't got the spell. And it may have been true as well. I reckon some were lying because they were just lazy. Can you imagine that? Didn't bother to learn how to resurrect someone. Which is a simple level 10 quest as well. Where unfortunately, screw you and the free mount you rode on the pally. Well, it was only free at level 40. It ended up being more expensive at level 60. And I had to do a load of quests as well. But it was a nice quest. It was good. But the thing about the level 40 one, it was really weird because I distinctly remember. I remember exactly where I was when I dinged 40. I sort of remember where I was when I dinged 60, but I don't remember exactly. When I dinged 40, I was killing the water elementals on the island just off Stranglethorn Vale for the quest. And I dinged 40 and I thought, oh, I can have a mount now. But the thing is, I was told there was quite a long quest chain for the mount. Now, of course, what they meant was the level 61. So I thought, well, if I've got a long quest chain ahead of me, there's no point in rushing to do it now. I'll do it later. You know, so at the end of my gaming session, when I was still running around like an idiot, I went to Stormwind. I went to the cathedral to start it off. You know, because I was only going to be on for another 10 minutes. I'll just start it off, see what it's about. And this guy in the cathedral gave you a book. And he said, read this book. And I clicked that I'd read it. I went, right, done. And he said, right, here's your mount. And I went, what? I was expecting a long quest chain here. Is that it? Because the quest, I was thinking of something like for level 20, the weapon quest chain, which took me several levels before I accomplished it. Because that was a quest chain. This was go to Stormwind, read a book. Don't even read a book, just say you've read a book. That was it. So yeah, I thought, oh, I was running around for ages. I could have had my mount ages ago. Was probably the reagents more than me later. There were no reagents. Not for paladins. There's a spell. I mean, we didn't have any reagents at all until Greater Blessings and then Symbol of Kings. But even that wasn't used for a redemption. I know Druids had something to battle res. But the paladin res is just mana. They would, if they had it and they just weren't using it, they were just being lazy. The old class quests were really fun, remember them well. Yes, they were. I am deeply disappointed that they knackered Scholarman, so I still have my thing for summoning the Black Knight in the ossuary. Can't use it because they knackered Scholarmans. I mean, the brazier for the dungeon set still works in some locations where they haven't changed it. So it still works in Diamore, for example. It still works in Lower Blackrock Spire. But it doesn't work in Scholarman's because they knackered it. It doesn't work in Upper Blackrock Spire because they knackered that. Where else did it get used? Can't remember. The water totem all the way in Silverpine Forest. Well, not very far away if you were Horde, was it? You could get a dirigible at least if you were an Orky type. I mean, you were not likely to be an undead shaman, granted. I mean, I had to go to Silverpine Forest as Alliance, as a human paladin, to get one of my bits for my weapon. Hard time coming up with what class to play in Classic. I did not. I wouldn't have even played the game if you couldn't be a paladin. Literally, the story of my play... Because I'd played Warcraft games. I knew about World of Warcraft, but I looked at it and I thought, an MMO doesn't sound like it's for me. Because it's like, imagine all those idiots that you talk to on the internet being in a game with you. Does that sound fun? No, it does not. But then a friend of mine who was living with me at the time said, you should get this, you'll really enjoy it. And I basically just said, because I had been thinking about it, I just didn't think I'd like it. But on recommendation of a very good friend, I'll go, okay. I said, can you play a paladin? And he said, yes. Okay, I'll get it. So it was always going to be a paladin. I've always preferred to play a paladin or paladin type in all fantasy role-playing games. Black War Ram was your first epic mount. What did you need to be? Didn't you need to be a marshal to get that? Wasn't that? Or even a grand marshal? Wasn't that like... What rank did you need to get that? The black mount. Didn't we need a reagent in Classic for... Oh, yeah, okay. For Divine Intervention, technically. But, you know, you didn't use that in Common or Garden use. That was strictly for killing gnomes. The Paladin song. What Paladin song? I don't remember a Paladin song. Hitting level 40 was a big deal back then, saving up gold, walking down to get your mount, only to realise some horde had killed all the NPC. Oh, I didn't get that at least. But it was a big deal because where I was, again, I described myself as being in Stranglethorn Vale. Stranglethorn Vale was either a brilliantly designed zone or just great coincidence, because it was a very long zone where the main hub was right at the southern tip of it. And this was before you had flight points everywhere. You know, you had like a flight point in each zone if you were lucky. And so and it covered a large range. You had from like level 27 quests at the top all the way down to like level 45-ish quests down at the bottom. So it covered, although you would go elsewhere at various points, you'd keep coming back to Stranglethorn Vale. So you would spend your time as you leveled up to 40 running down there, being passed by people on a mount. So you were salivating already at the prospect of being mounted yourself. And so, yeah, it was a zone that, for me at least, built up the hype of riding. Oh, getting those Green Hills pages, yeah. Yeah. But, I mean, you sort of did that alongside. There were so many quests in Stranglethorn Vale anyway. So many quests. Remember, you didn't get your normal mount until you was level 48. Well, no, I mean, you wouldn't... I can't remember how much gold you needed, but you wouldn't naturally have that much gold unless you'd been saving, to be honest. Was it 90 gold? Wow. I mean, 100 gold and 90 for the discount, I suppose. I don't remember it being that much, but I suppose, yeah, no, yeah. Because it was 1,000 gold, therefore 900 for the epic mount. Actually, no, yeah. You avoided Stranglethorn Vale after your first character. Such a gank fest. Well, I played on a PvE realm. I didn't worry about that. I mean, if you wanted to do anything like that, you went into the arena, which I wasn't that bothered about. Was the Stormpike Battle Charger not the Black Ram? No. Was it? I don't remember. I thought there were a selection of black PvP themed mounts. Like I got the Black Kitty, Black War Panther or whatever. Is the neutral auction house still there? What, as in now? I think so, yeah. I don't know. I didn't really use it back then. I mean, I occasionally showed a bit of interest in Tanaris, but there was never anything decent there. Oh, sorry, you bought the pages from the neutral auction house, I see. I never found anything useful on those. The XP per hour was horrible. Well, you're looking at someone who spent 21 game days, not just real days, game days, leveling to 60. Because I spent a massive amount of my time not only exploring, I would go to the other ends of Azeroth just for one quest, but also leveling up, tailoring and enchanting to keep pace with my level, which was not an efficient way to do it, especially for enchanting, because it meant a lot of time spent in Ironforge selling enchants. So efficiency of leveling was not really something I considered. To be honest, I generally don't in a game on my first character, because, you know, I'm quite happy exploring and playing the game for what it is. I don't rush to level cap. It's a different matter once you've done one character, though. I suppose it depends on how similar the leveling experience is. It was pretty similar for me, because there were certain zones I just didn't like, and then after that with other characters I would tend to have a favourite path that I would take. The annoying thing is, though, that between level 50 and 60, it's like they jammed in all my favourite zones. Apart from, I mean, Duskwood was, I suppose, my favourite overall. But I quite like Wetlands as well. But you know, things like Fellwood, Ungoro Crater, Eastern and Western Plaguelands, Silithus, and Wintergrass. No, I don't mean Wintergrass. What do I mean? Crap. What's the name of the Arctic zone at the top, next to Hyjal? What's it called? I've completely forgotten the name of the zone. It's like one of my favourite zones. The snowy place. Winterspring. Thank you. Right, there we go. Yes. So you had like 7 different zones that you could do between 50 and 60. And you couldn't really do everything in them. Well, you could do everything in Silithus, because before they expanded it was nothing to do there. There were like a few quests and that was it. But I still quite liked it. So, yeah, you had these 3 sets of double zones right next to each other. I thought fantastic. Some of them are much less fantastic now, I have to say. But, I mean, I met quite a lot of people that I ended up forming groups with. When I was quested in Fellwood, I met a lot of people that I then carried on, you know, grouping with for things, even when I was in guilds and stuff throughout the expansion. It's brilliant. Have I tried EverQuest? No. There's 2 new time lock progression servers for the 20th. Yeah, well, there's quite a few doing this now, aren't there? I'm only interested in playing Classic WoW for nostalgia, and I'm not going to play it a lot. I'm certainly not interested in playing a game that I didn't appreciate at the time in its original form. And as I say, I don't need to find new games anyway, because the games I have and would like to play, I don't really have time for. I've been just about finding time to at least go on to ESO to do my dailies, which are damn sight quicker than WoW dailies, this Easter, as well as being able to actually spend some time playing it as well now and then. I've not been able to play any Star Wars for ages, or Lord of the Rings Online. The problem with Lord of the Rings Online is sometimes I fancy doing it again, but it's a pain to set up if you start a new character, and it's just the worst leveling experience. I mean, you know, I complain about the fact that WoW hasn't really developed its leveling to take account of new expansions. Lord of the Rings Online, for that, there's many good things about the game. That is not one of them. That is a real weakness. My goodness. Oh my God. And I know it's not an easy... I mean, I know it wouldn't be straightforward to just bring zone scaling into that game because it follows a narrative, and that probably causes problems as well. But anyway. So yeah, I certainly don't need to be playing new games, especially when they're not even new games. If I were to play another MMO, it would surely be a new one to try out. Because, you know, I'd be quite interested in seeing where MMOs are going in terms of modern developments. I will be very interested to see the next big budget MMO. It's just there isn't one on the horizon. I know Ashes of Creation obviously is still coming. But I haven't been showing much interest in that, even though I think I'm in the beta. I can't remember. It looks just about interesting enough that for the money I paid into the Kickstarter, that I would get enough use out of it. But I don't know. I don't see anything that I mean, I see it's very difficult to tell because you look at some games, you think, oh, that looks quite good, but then you just think to yourself, well, lots of games look good. They make them look good when they're trying to hype them. It's how they play, really, isn't it? I mean, everything looks good when you played WoW because although the technical art style and animation, everything is very good, it does have that cartoony look that I've never really got on with. Amazon are working on MMO. Seriously? Seriously? Is it an MMO where you're a mailman? Do you have to deliver packages? Super early days at the moment, but I don't expect it to be greedy. I think they're using it to flesh out their game engine. And they usually take losses to gain market share. Are we talking about the same Amazon here? But the problem with something like that, it's a bit like the Tolkien-based sort of MMO that was announced last year. It's going to be years before we see it. You know, this is the issue, isn't it? When something develops, it takes many years for a big game like that to come through. They have a game engine called Lumberyard. Right. But well, we'll just have to see what the future of it all holds. In the meantime, I'm actually much more enjoying my across the table tabletop gaming at the moment. So it's all good. But it is nice. Obviously, the advantage of a PC game is it's on tap. Whenever you want to play a game, it is there for you. That was always the thing between Warhammer and WoW for me. The thing that made me go fully into WoW and give up Warhammer when I had to pretty much choose was WoW is there all the time. Warhammer is not. If there's a pie available, they'll always want a slice. Yes, I suppose so. Yeah, they do buy up a lot of companies, don't they? Games coming in years is equal to vaporware, in your opinion. But they do. They do. You don't know anything about it. Lots of things can change in the interim. I've seen no end. I mean, before Warhammer Online came out, there were lots of different Warhammer MMO. Well, I say lots. There were Warhammer MMO things come out, and you used to see stuff, and it was, ooh. I remember watching one that was like a Great Unclean one. Ooh. And it never did, you know, a lot of the time they never go anywhere, do they? It's a bit like trying to discover new drugs, pharmaceutical companies. Like 90% of them go nowhere, you know, because they do something like make you go blind or turn your shit green or something like that. And it's like, oh, we can't use that. Hi, Miller. After seeing those robot chickens in Amazon warehouses, the staff had best learn to code. Well, lots of people had best learn to code. There's not going to be any money to be made from doing anything else one day. We'd best learn to teach our kids to code. I just have to hope that I won't need to before I finish. Because like when I was very young, I was quite keen on it. I learned basic and stuff like that. I could do a few things, made a few little basic games. It was, no pun intended. It was pretty good. But, oh, thank you, Fraser. It was actually an idea I had. Sorry, just come to this. It was a quick idea I had. Someone who works in a social media literacy group wanted to present my stuff in Brussels this week. Or was it next week? I can't remember. But she wanted to present my stuff as an example of someone in the UK banging the drum for the EU. And just as a little aside for everyone else. And we were talking, I did this interview and talking about all sorts of things. And it just, because she asked the question, what impact do I think I'm having? Oh, I don't know. And so I thought, well, let's just see, shall we? Because maybe I should attempt to not just discuss things, but actually inspire, maybe, hopefully. But anyway, sorry. I've forgotten what oh, God, I had a senior moment. What was I talking about? Crap. This is why I should never go off on a tangent. I used to be able to remember what I was talking about and come back to it. I have no idea now. Did I record the interview? No, I didn't. Oh yeah, making a game basic. Thank you very much. Thank you. So yeah, I used to really enjoy it. What I didn't enjoy was having to save it onto tape, which didn't always work. You know, people who code, there may be some of you in the chat now will know. So it takes you a very long time, potentially, and then you've got to go through checking for all the errors, because there will be errors. All your troubleshooting takes way longer than actually creating the code in the first place. And then you had to save it, and that didn't always work. That was annoying, but I did enjoy it. And then I completely went off it when I was in my teenage years, possibly because of, I don't know why, actually. No, I actually don't know why. But anyway, I went off it. Then I went to university, and, obviously going to do a physics degree, there's a lot of applications for coding. Now, we had to do at least some basic coding, like literally basic coding. So I did that module, but I didn't do any others. I didn't do like any of the other ones. And I remember, now I went to Manchester specifically because I was very interested in astronomy. And that's the place to go if you're interested in astronomy, in the UK at any rate. I know Cambridge, but Manchester's the place. And then I had the opportunity. Now, at Manchester, you've got the huge radio telescope, Jodrell Bank, the Mark I Lovell telescope. I wasn't going to get to use that. But I was going to be allowed to use the Mark II, which is a smaller one, but still very beefy. Now, I did use one in my second year, which was a homemade one. The dish was, I can't even show you on here, but it wasn't that big. It was like, think about an old-fashioned dustbin lid. That was pretty much the diameter of the dish. And, and it was all cobbled together. Like the receiver, to protect it from the elements, was in a plant pot that they painted white. It was a plant pot, and what we had to do with this thing is it was on the 9th floor, and our computer, which was a BBC Micro, was on the 2nd floor. So we'd have to run. I was a lot fitter then. Run up 7 flights of stairs, adjust it, point it at a bit of the sky, tie it off, run back down, collect our data, analyze our data, run upstairs, do the same thing again, keep doing that. But, but that was straightforward because we only needed like basic for that. But to have used the Mark II Lovell telescope, I was told I would have had to have learnt Fortran. And I had no idea whether Fortran would be a relatively easy language to pick up or not, programming language. But I was so uninterested in learning new coding skills, should we put it that way, that I just basically thought, nah, I won't bother. I'll do a lab with some nuclear isotopes instead. So I did. But anyway, hang on, what we're talking about here? If your business partner has so much fraud going on that accountants wouldn't sign the books for 19 years, why would you keep doing business? For the money. What? That's a good answer to any question about why would you keep doing business. Yeah, for the money. I don't know where that conversation's come from or going. I'll just leave that one there, I think. But anyway, sorry, yeah, that's so I no longer have any interest in coding. But I mean, we at least used to be taught it when I was a kid in school. Now they're supposed to be going back to it, but the problem is that we don't have enough trained people in the country to do it. We don't have enough teachers. Because the next generation weren't taught coding. You're a programmer, you can't imagine storing it on external media to even run it. But at the same time, modern coding has its own issues, such as many frameworks, lots of which get replaced in 2 years. Yeah, I don't imagine it's an easier process. I mean, obviously, I was lucky. I got to save it on a tape. When I started teaching in a different college, there was someone there who did his degree in computing at a time when punch cards were the thing you use. He created a program with punch cards. So, frankly, the cassette tape was a marvel compared to that. And then, of course, you had floppy disks, which were better still. And now we don't even need that crap. We can have relatively stable media that won't deteriorate over even a moderate amount of time. Have a look at Colossus, the first British computer. I have a look at many things. The first truly programmable computer, was built at Manchester University. And when I brought this up, actually, relatively recently, someone told me they changed it. But when I was there was a replica of it in the computing department, the bottom of the maths tower. Apparently it's no longer there. Or at least the tower's no longer there. They've rebuilt it or something. I haven't been since. Well, not Babbage himself. He was dead. But based on Charles Babbage. The most famous person that worked on it would have been Alan Turing. But it wasn't just him. There were many others as well. So, yeah. University of Manchester's way. I don't know why everyone sort of, places Cambridge higher for physics for it. I have really no idea. The University of Manchester, that's where it's always been. In fact, Ernest Rutherford, if there's any Canadians here, you will know him. He's the guy who split the atom. And although he was a bit surprised when he did it, it has to be said, he didn't expect it. He did his stuff at Manchester. And one of his students was a certain Hans Geiger of the Geiger-Muller tube fame. And he was poached by Cambridge. They grabbed one of our star strikers in Ernest Rutherford. But the most exciting thing he did at Cambridge, he didn't make any great discoveries there. The most exciting thing he did was fall out of a tree and die of a hernia. Did you ever continue watching Game of Thrones while painting? Yeah, I've watched everything up to the latest series now, which is now only on telly. So when that comes out on Blu-ray, I shall watch that as well. But not until. And I'm not all that bothered about spoilers. I'm not going to invite them. But I'm not that bothered about them because at the end of the day, I put off watching any Game of Thrones for so long that I knew quite a few plot details anyway before I ever watched it. So that's all fine. Yeah, I actually did I haven't done any painting in ages, actually. I need to get some more painting done this week. I undercoated some more models today. But I hate painting. I hate assembling models, but I really hate painting. Took years of convincing me to watch it. Yeah, it did. It did. It often does with these things. I mean, even now, I wouldn't say it was amazing. It was worth it. I haven't, usually when I get videos on things, I repeat them quite a lot. I haven't repeat watched them. I've just watched them. And that's it. Spoilers make it less enjoyable? Yes, they do. At the same time, I had the first 7 series spoiled for me. Or not exclusively. Obviously, there were lots of things I didn't know. But there was plenty that I did. And, it didn't spoil it that much for me. Well, it spoils it in that sense, but it didn't ruin the experience for me. So, yeah, I mean, I would seek to avoid spoilers for the 8 series. But the bottom line is I'm unlikely to get through to the point where it's out on Blu-ray without someone saying something inadvertently. Because it is so popular. You know, I'll have students talking about it potentially. I'll have members of staff talking about it in earshot of me. I will see memes. Well, memes will happen, and I will see something and go, oh, that must be related to Game of Thrones. I'm bound to catch something. But it is what it is. I will just put up with it. If I was that bothered, I would just... Actually, my telly's not even working. I actually can't even watch telly if I wanted to at the moment because it's broken. I'd need to get another one. But given that I don't really watch it apart from to watch DVDs, and I can watch those while I'm painting on a portable DVD player, that was that. Star Wars spoiler was disappointing. The thing is, though, if we're honest, after the last film, and I don't say that the next film can't be better, but after the last film, was it actually possible to do a teaser trailer that would have been exciting? Was it actually possible? I'll tell you what I did notice, though, when I read the BBC article on it. It described Rey as somersaulting over a TIE fighter, and it was clearly an interceptor, not a TIE fighter. At which point, I labelled myself a nerd and decided to keep quiet. They need to change your child's preschool day or time. Keep having to run out midstream. That won't do. I'm sorry. You're waiting to finish the books before in the TV series. The thing is, though, from what I can gather, it's very different. You know, and from what I can gather, at the end of it, like by the time we are now, there's so many major plot lines have diverged that I don't know what it would be like to read the books and then watch the TV series, or watch the TV series and then read the books. So I need to stop watching or believing anything the BBC tells me. Well, it's usually fine for foreign affairs, but obviously they know nothing about Star Wars. That's quite clear. Couldn't believe it. It doesn't even look like a TIE fighter. Seriously. But anyway, it is... I mean, I suppose I will go and see it. I did toy with the idea of... I refuse to buy the last one on DVD at all because I never intend to watch it as long as I live. You know, and... but I had toyed with the idea of won't even go and see the 9th one at the cinema, just wait for it to come out on DVD. But then I thought, no, I probably will end up going and seeing it at the cinema. Jaina and Jace, not Rey. What? They deleted the Yuzan Vong storyline, best story in the universe. I don't even know what that is. The Star Wars trailer did nothing for me. It's the first one not to. Well, again, I would put it more down to the disappointment of the last film for me. You've waited for the DVD for the last 3 and you're a member of the what's that? 501st? What is that? You preferred the little cute thing Chewie had last time. The new robot is lame. What, the thing that stopped him being a carnivore because it looked cute? That was the most... That was... Of all the ridiculous things in that film, that was the most ridiculous. Chewbacca is not going to be put off his food by a pair of eyes. He was surely much more likely to stick the new one on the fire as well, for afters. Yeah, episode 8 completely killed it for you. Literally no interest anymore. I mean, I will watch... You might as well. It's the last film. But I cannot... and also bringing the Emperor back. What's that about? He was thrown into the core of an exploding Death Star. Don't give me... He'd better not be Snoke. He'd better not be. absolute nonsense. He wasn't that powerful. And I know there were some Sith that would be able to survive that, but he's surely not one of them. Look up 501st Legion, all right, later. The Galaxy Review live Star Wars discussion. What do you mean I had it on my background for ages? What did I have on my background? The cute thing. What did I don't mind the cute thing. What I objected to was Chewbacca throwing his dinner away on the basis of it. You were never into Star Wars, and the last movie was actually your second Star Wars movie. Oh dear. Oh no. What a disaster. You enjoyed it. Well, maybe it's just about passable to someone who hasn't actually watched Star Wars films. Except I still cannot understand anyone without any knowledge at all watching the film and thinking, oh yeah, that trip to the casino world that took up half the film and achieved nothing. That was time well spent. No way Admiral Gender Studies getting the heroic sacrifice over Akbar was... Oh well. Was that the Emperor? Yes, that was... No, that was actually the Emperor. When they were showing it, when they had a premiere of the trailer, and Ian McDermott, I can never pronounce his name, came out on stage. It's him. It is him. So, yes, the Emperor is in it. Whether he is the real Snoke or something, I can only imagine that's probably the case. It's disappointing. I mean, bringing back all these old people, you know, why? It's just desperation. There's nothing wrong with introducing new characters. Get used to it. Never really got into Star Wars. Remember thinking Jar Jar Binks was awesome. Oh. So many faux pas here. You thought Jar Jar Binks was awesome. I suppose someone had to. When you were younger, then you grew up to learn everyone hates him. Because he was such a terrible character. He was offensive on so many levels. A Joker crossover could have been fun. Well, to be honest, at this point, it wouldn't ruin the story even more, would it, to have suddenly had the Joker appear in it? Only second Star Wars film that's like your first expansion being WOD and continuing to buy expansions. There is a question with Star Wars, though, it has to be said. I mean, let's say you had children and you were introducing them in a planned way to Star Wars. Do you show them from episode 1? Or do you show from episode 4 to 6 and then 1 to 3? Because, and I know a lot of people will just instantly say, well, no, you must show them 4 to 6, otherwise you've no chance of hooking them. But surely the kid's going to be looking at it. How come we're starting on 4? Because presumably, if you're going to raise a child to be intelligent, they're not going to fall for anything stupid like that. At the same time, it would ruin the biggest shock in the original trilogy if you showed them 1 to 3 first. And of course, they'd miss a lot of nuances in 1 to 3 because it assumes that people have watched 4 to 6. I wonder if there's anything to be said for showing 1 in order from 1. Or maybe you just don't show them at all. Maybe you just say, do you know what? You'll really enjoy these films, but no matter how awesome you find them, it will not prepare you for what's going to come last. The narrative of the prequels is how leverage the victim mentality to gain sympathy, then power. People really have much sympathy for him? I mean, if they wanted sympathy for Anakin, why did they have to have him played as a whiny brat? There's an order called the Machete Order. It's a lot of people recommended if you've never watched before. 4, 5, 2, 3. Oh my god, what the hell? 4, 5, 2, 3, 6, 7, 8, 9. Hang on a minute. You put the word recommended with episode 8 in the same sentence. Is that really what you meant to say? You asked me that question on order ages ago. Your new dilemma is your son is order of films in Babylon 5. I don't even know what order to watch those in now because I've forgotten in which order they were released in relation to the series. So that would be a tricky one. I wouldn't be able to help with that at all. You have given them this much thought. You watched them 5, 6, 4. Hang on. No. 5 and 6 before 4. How brain hurting. How does that make sense? Five, 6, then 4 and 7. You've got to at least do 4. I mean, there you've got 4, 5, then you go to 2. Do you do 2 and 3 because it doesn't? You think it doesn't spoil 6, but 3 does spoil 6 because you don't know. Because right, if you do 4, 5, 2, 3, then you find out at the end of 3 that Leia is Luke's sister, and then you think back to 5 and you go, oh my God, what the hell? I don't know about that. I don't know. 5, 6, 3, 7. Okay. So we're not even bothering with 4. So why does this Luke fella see dead people then? Do we not want to explain that to anyone? What's wrong with what have you got against 4? Odds then evens. No, I don't think that's a sensible attitude at all. Can't just do that. What would that give you? 1, 3, which makes no sense. And then 5, 7. No. I think it would have to be in the blocks that they originally released, and it's just is it 1 to 6, or is it 4, 5, 6, then 1, 2, 3? You rank 4 about the same as 8. Oh, what? What was wrong with 4? I thought 4 was very good. Can't remember how many times I watched that as a kid. What have you got against 4? I mean, I was quite lucky. I almost would have watched 5 before 4 because I was only 1 when 4 was at the cinema, so I had no chance of watching that. But I was old enough to go to the cinema when 5 came out. But fortunately, I'd watched 4. I'd watched Star Wars. Well, it wasn't called 4 then, but I'd watched Star Wars first. Or was it? It wasn't originally called Episode 4. 4 annoyed you. Too much yelling from the princess. Well, she wasn't in it for most of it. And she wasn't really yelling. She just got a bit stroppy. But then, to be fair, some arsehole had blown her planet up. You're guessing that machete order includes 1 where it should be. Yeah, 1 doesn't seem to be in there, does it? 4 was fine, but 7 was a carbon copy. It was similar, but I thought I found 7 enjoyable as, like, you know, you just obviously it's not a film for thinking about, but then to be fair, none of them are. I thought it was enjoyable. It was very obviously it used pretty much the same plot line, yes. Odds Then Even is a popular choice on forums. You're old enough to have watched on release. It doesn't affect you. Oh yeah. No, I was only one when Star Wars came out, but you know, it wasn't actually. You didn't have to go very far into the 80s before it was on television. And I certainly remember, you know, Return of the Jedi at the cinema as well. And then all the others I've watched at the cinema before I've watched them elsewhere. It was fun enough, but it was the exact same plot. Yes, it was the same plot, yes. But it is as it is. Massively super. I mean, you know, I just looked at it as something to get people back into Star Wars, and you know, and then I expected 8 to be where you got the real meat of it. And in that way, it's not dissimilar to the original trilogy, is it? 4 was nice escapism, but 5 is where you really got to the meat of story, and the bad guys technically won at the end. And then you had 6 to round everything off. And I was expecting a similar sort of thing there. I was expecting episode 8 to be like the Empire. I was not correct at all. I couldn't have been one. I was one. I was born in 1976. You saw 2 in the theatres, Night 7 Town. I mean, I was still very young, but very much into Star Wars somehow. In fact, even in my lunchbox, there was these like biscuit things that had pictures of Star Wars characters on them. They used to be my lunchbox. So, yeah, 4 years old, getting loads of Star Wars stuff. And I don't remember what I made of it though. I may not have made a lot of it because, to be fair, probably watching episode 5 as your only one, you probably don't take a lot from it as a 4-year-old, having not watched the first one. Or had I watched? Actually, no, I think I had watched the first one first. But I don't remember. Eight was very similar to 5, but with a couple of problems. Do you mean the part of the film between the beginning and the ending? Are those the parts that were the problems? Because that was what I would say. You know, the problems with episode 8 were the script and the characters. Yes, that is the issue indeed. But anyway, as we've certainly veered well away from Warcraft topics, and we've come to the end there. So I will, on that note, call it. Thank you very much for coming on. I will see you again next week, and have a good night, everyone.